Hello, and thank you for visiting our studio for a quick summary. Today I'll be discussing the film The King's Daughter, a romantic fantasy adventure. Beware of spoilers ahead of time. Louis XIV's daughter, Maria, is a princess. However, she must remain hidden, so she was brought up in a convent by herself. Although the nuns caring for her make an effort to protect her from experiencing the outside world, she often sneaks out to go swimming in the ocean. Even when the abbess destroyed her cello and forbade her to ride her horse in an effort to discourage her, she continued to visit the monastery. In the palace of Versailles. After a lengthy and costly battle, Louis returns to the palace triumphant but is assassinated while giving a victory speech. The injury is not deadly, and he is able to climb back on his horse and finish his talk. Regardless of the king's vainglorious gestures. This experience has shown him that he is mortal after all. After tending to his injury, Dr. Lambert informs them there may be a way to give him eternal life. He says an organ of a mythical marine monster has the secret to eternal life. The fishermen under Louis' commission's command will soon go out in search of Atlantis in order to bring home a mermaid. Captain Eve orders his crew to cast the nets and light the explosive barrels when he detects the beast in the ocean. The fishermen bring in their catch of 2 mermaids after pulling in their net. After learning that the other is male, Eve tells his men to let him go, reasoning that they only need the female. Following this, Eve sent carrier pigeons to Versailles to report the capture of a mermaid. After getting wind of the news, in order to grant the king perpetual life, Lambert informs Louis that they must sacrifice the mermaid during the next solar eclipse. Louis reasons that the doctor would not jeopardize his reputation if he didn't believe what he was saying, despite the fact that the king's closest minister, Father Petrolicius, is dubious about his assertions. A simple telegram is sent to the monastery, inviting Maria Joseph to the palace for the eclipse celebration. As soon as it receives a positive answer, it sets out for the convent to rescue the king's long-lost daughter. That abbess cautions the law chest about Maria Joseph, who has developed a rebellious streak. But the priest cares solely about whether or not her singing would be accepted in court. Marie Joseph will soon be seen playing chess outside of the monastery. At the airport, she meets a young maid called Lee. Later, when Louis awakes to music played by court musicians, he finds it monotonous and orders her chest to immediately begin searching for a new composer. Miguel to bring Marie to her chamber while he's away. Maria Joseph, she reasons, must have been quite productive in order to move into a separate apartment so soon. Even if the room isn't very impressive at first glance, she is pretty pleased with it because of the view. In the meanwhile, let's play the King Marie Joseph's last composition from the monastery. In spite of her lack of instruction, Louis acknowledges his daughter's aptitude after giving the piece a cursory glance. In the morning, Louis informs the chest that he would meet Maria things, but he must not let anybody find out that she is his daughter. The son of a baron drops by to see Louis at the palace the next morning to give him a present for his forthcoming birthday. He didn't mention the baron's impending death until we prompted a conversation about his father. Lucha's lentils lead him to believe that Louis still has some need for him, and Maria, hearing this, makes her way to the king's court to tell him the good news. As the day progresses, she becomes more aware of people's stares. While waiting for the king, Magali reflects on how she has been the center of attention since the monarch requested her appearance. Marie Joseph trips over a sudden splash in the fountain just as the king arrives, drowning herself. Louis wraps her in his coat and explains that many people have lost their bearings due to the statue after Magalia and Lentils bring her out of the water. As he walks out the door, the king tells the chest to take Marie to a chamber within the chateau on the left. Soon after relocating, Magali and Marie Joseph discover a plethora of musical instruments and luxurious clothing in their new home. When Magali asks Joseph which item she wants most, Marie Joseph replies that the cello is her favorite since it reminds her of independence. On the same day, the monarch ordered the mermaid to be captured and taken to an artificial grotto he had constructed. Eve tells the fishermen that an underground river supplies the construction with seawater. Currently residing at the chateau, the king discovers a manuscript describing the female mermaid's genuine trance. But once it's away from the male Leboff, it writes it off as the ramblings of a drunk sailor. Louis requests the king to assist the mermaid in its recovery before the eclipse, and the king informs them that the creature is at the bottom of the ocean because it is weak and terrified. If successful, he'll give Eve a royal pardon, else, he'll be punished severely. Regis F hears astonishing noises outside while composing music inside, so she grabs a cello and runs out of the chateau to investigate. It won't be long until Marie Joseph emerges from the cave and spots the mermaid. When the mermaid attempts to talk to her, Eve shows there and snatches Maria Joseph away from him. Marie Joseph says that the mermaid beckoned to her with her singing. During their conversation, Maria Joseph reveals to Eve that she hopes to include the mermaid's music into a concert for King George III. The next day, the mermaid begins singing along with Maria as she sings Blazer Cello. Maria claims that the king is roused from sleep by mermaid-inspired music played by the court musicians. Louis likes the music and says he has never heard anything like it before. After the evening's spectacular ball, he instructs the chest to invite Marie. When Regis F finally shows up to the ball, the female desecrator is green with jealousy because of her one-of-a-kind style. He plays the dancer until Louis orders him to stop. It goes well for a while, until Louis recalls how he wants to dance to their mother and lets go of Marie Joseph's hand. Marie just casually comments that she does not know how the king's tutors are. Throughout the night, Maria paid the mermaid many visits to spread the news about the upcoming gala. He feeds the monster dead fish, so Maria Joseph says she's afraid of him. In that same moment, Marie reveals to Eve that the cave is a favorite of hers because of her fondness for water. She says the water was her refuge from the confines of the monastery. Later, Louis is informed by Labarre that the source of the mermaid's vital energy has been positively identified. He then explains that he intends to harvest Oregon by killing the monster within the cave and then draining the water out. After waking up the following day, Marie discovers Louis in the garden, sketching a lady. Louis explains that the fountain's monument portrays a woman named Louise de Lovelady who drew portraits, and he adds that no other woman but Marie Joseph reminds him of Louisa. Following his father's impending death, Louis declares that he will become Duke of Lentil at the sun eclipse party. That evening, the monarch and the aristocracy hear from everyone who had an experience with a barracuda that day, even the fishermen. Eve observes that they ran away from the barracuda, and Lynn Celiac that they must be cowards or weaklings since they didn't kill their victim. After he shouts out the "ACA moron," the two guys come close to getting into a physical altercation. It seems like there are just two options, but Louis blocks our view. Marie GSF and her companions often spend their mornings riding horses around the royal grounds and shooting ducks. When Maria Joseph inquires as to the source of his hatred, Eve admits that Lentils falsely accused him of stealing when he delivered things for them some years ago, and as a result, he was incarcerated. Marie is about to hug Eve as they walk through the woods when she hears a gunshot and slams against a tree limb. When Lambert takes a closer look, he notices that her arm is severely damaged. He suggests amputation on the grounds that it is standard operating practice, but Marie Joseph is against the idea. Later that night, the mermaid confides in Eve that she wishes to aid Regis if Eve would carry her. You should swim with Maria Joseph as soon as possible. To drain her vitality, the mermaid swims in a circle around her well. By the next morning, Maria Joseph's arm is as good as new, and she can perform with fellow musicians as if nothing had happened. The labyrinth agrees that this is undeniable proof of the mermaid's abilities after Marie Joseph tells Louis that the mermaid cured her injury and even gave her the ability to breathe underwater for a moment. From the king's illness, Marie Joseph infers that he brought the mermaid to Versailles. But Louis says he's okay and that he brought the monster that's meant for the French colonial-era servants. Marie Joseph lavishes praise on him, hoping he'll put the mermaid's healing abilities to work for the ordinary people. Louis offers her an evasive answer when she asks whether he plans to release the mermaid once he has healed the sick by claiming the creature will end up where God desires her to be. On the same day, Eve reveals to Maria that the king brought the mermaid to the island for himself, and not as a gift for his companions. Despite this, Maria Joseph continues to have faith in Louis's good intentions for the mermaid. Eve later brings Maria to the side of Versailles near the lighthouse, where he and other fishermen dwell. When he asks Eve about her dreams, she reveals that she wants the mermaid to be set free so she may come with her. Eve then takes Marie soon after the Temple of Love and gorgeous edifice in the center of a garden and sails away from Versailles. Louis begs the king to take Marie Joseph's hand in marriage and discloses that she is his daughter as Regis if abruptly kisses him in the palace, and the monarch responds cheerfully, saying that he will be pleased to marry here. The next day, Louis presents each of his children with a Regis F. A pendant depicting their mother and indicates that he and her mother were together before she gave up court life. After this, Louis explains that her mom joined a nunnery and gave birth there. Louis, seeing that Regis F. recognizes him as our father, admits that he has been awful and self-centered by prioritizing France above her. Even though he knows he's not perfect, Louis begs Marie to make a sacrifice for the nation and Marilyn Celiac for his money. When Marie objects, Louis insists that she pay a one-night visit to the mermaid so that he can see that she has a soul. Later, he informs Lambert that he would curse the king to hell if they murder the mermaid to save themselves. When Marie only half-heartedly attempts to leave her room that evening. Discovering a guard on the outside, she exits the building through a window in order to pay her mermaid friend a visit. She was captured while meeting with a king, and when she finally reaches the cave, the monster reveals her the memories of her imprisonment, revealing that she abandoned her kid with another mermaid. Simply tells him that killing the mermaid is a cardinal offense. But Louis feels God let him catch the mermaid so that he may keep governing France. On the same evening, Labyrinth's buddies sneaked into his room and found the papers he'd written about killing the mermaid. A little later, his buddy entices a guard outside Maria's room so he may slip one of the documents under the door. After capturing Eve, Labyrinth orders a guard to put him in solitary confinement. There's a piece of paper he slipped in there, but he can't see it. After that, we'll go back to her room. The article leads her to the disturbing conclusion that the Labyrinth has set out to eliminate the mermaid. Marie approaches the king on the day of the eclipse, demanding that he return the mermaid to her rightful place on the throne if she is to stop being Marilyn Celiac. But Louis won't budge, so the musketeers are sent back to the hotel with Maria Joseph to get her ready for the wedding. Lambert, who plans to sacrifice the mermaid later that day, instructs Eve to empty the grotto of water. As this is going on, Maria has asked her chest to assist her get out of the room where she saw the monster so that she may change into her wedding dress before the beast returns. Eve is getting ready to drain the water as the Regis F arrives in the cave. Eve is hesitant to comply, but he points her that he and his companions would be killed otherwise. Eve resolves to join Marie Joseph in freeing the mermaid after learning that she is disobeying the king by refusing to Marilyn Celiac. He gives the order for the other fishermen to instantly make sail towards the cliff of the Amber and get ready for their escape. If the mermaid is going to cross the wall and enter the subterranean river, Marie Joseph and Eve must turn on the water wheel to drain the chateau. Lambert, accompanied by the guards, will soon arrive in the cave to prevent the humans from rescuing the mermaid. A guard fires at Eve as he climbs a water wheel. So, Eve uses a rope swing to crash against the guard and knock him unconscious. After killing the guy who was trying to shoot him with the guard's rifle, he pursues him and eventually catches up to him on a narrow bridge. Lambert tries to get the pistol from him as they grapple to the ground, and fires it. Labyrinth and the other character both end up under the water, but the Labyrinth later resurfaces, clinging to the water wheel. When Marie Joseph needs him most, he attempts to assault her and ends up being beaten in the head with a chain. Then Marie Joseph suggests the mermaid take one of them and go. Soon. Lambert stands up, but his foot becomes entangled in a rope. We simply have takes the end of the rope, hooks it to the water wheel, and drags the doctor underneath. Shortly afterwards, Marie Joseph spots the mermaid leaping into the air with Eve on her back. A few minutes later, Marie Joseph and her equestrian suitor emerge from the cave and ride out toward the cliff. Louis, upon learning of her escape, sends guards to the cliffs and orders his ships to intercept the fishermen. When Marie Joseph reaches the cliff's edge, she sees that the king's ships have already positioned themselves to block the way for the fishermen. Maria warns that she will leap if Louis and his guys try to abduct her. She tells Louis that she is hurt by her father's apparent lack of affection for her, but he begs her to give him another opportunity. Suddenly, the mermaid appears at the end of a tunnel, accompanied by a completely healed Eve. We either told him to murder the mermaid to achieve everlasting life, or else that if he left her alive, the monster would rescue her when she jumped, so we instructed his musketeers to be ready to shoot the mermaid when the moon begins to cover the sun. Marie throws the necklace her boyfriend Louis gave her over the edge of the cliff. As the mermaid recovers, Louis orders the musketeers to disband in a Regis F. When the mermaid learns that Marie Joseph is doing better, she makes a hasty exit. A great monarch all along, Louis is now a wonderful man, according to what Luke just said. As he saw Mary, Joseph, and Eve swim to the fisherman's ship, he ordered his musketeers to signal the withdrawal of his fleet. And even Maria's F continues looking for Atlantis so he can be with his mermaid love. When Marie Joseph reaches the sunken city, he plunges into the sea to explore and discovers the mermaid and her kid. Soon, the mermaid relents to the boys' attempts to scare her away and joins them on a tour of the enchanted city. If you appreciate this video and want to see more like it, please subscribe. If you like the channel, please enable alerts and leave a like. We appreciate you taking the time to watch.